Hey everyone, it's Triple Mango Threat or Ashley, and today I want to talk about a really cool mono green deck that Tomer made, so let's jump right into it. So our commander is Gargos, Vicious Watcher, and it costs 6 and it's an 8/7 Hydra with Vigilance. It's going to let our Hydras cost 4 less, and whenever a creature you control becomes the target of a spell, Gargos is going to fight up to one target creature you don't control. So normally people build this a Hydra tribal, but that wasn't the focus of this deck. Let's talk about that. So for this deck, I personally put basics that I thought would look nice in it. They are all the old border forests, and sadly they're not the same art, but I love the idea of just this old border going on. So starting with the ramp, just to touch on a few, we have Karametra's Acolyte. We can tap to add an amount of green to our mana pool equal to our devotion to green, which already with our commander, that's 3 plus Karametra's Acolyte. That's going to be 4 mana at least. Then we have Llanowar Tribe, another great mana dork. It costs 3 green, and in a mono green deck, that's perfectly fine. And then the next turn, we get to tap it for 3 green. So on turn 3, we play this. On turn 4, we've already ramped plus 3, and if we play an additional land, we're at 7 green mana, which is really awesome. Elvish Mystic is a classic mana dork. It's 1/1 that taps for a green. We have Whisper of the Wilds that costs 1 and a green, and it's a 0/2 that taps for 1 green, which may seem worse than Elvish Mystic, but if we control a creature with power 4 or greater, which our commander meets that need, we can tap this for 2 green instead. Drum Hunter for 3 and a green, it's a 2/2 Human Druid Warrior. At the end of our turn, if we control a creature with power 5 or greater, we may draw a card, and it taps for 1 colorless. We're going to be able to meet the power 5 or greater need easily because, again, our commander is power 8, and drawing cards is going to be great for the deck. Ronus' Monument for 3 colorless, it's a legendary artifact that lets our green creature spells cost 1 less to cast. And whenever you cast a creature spell, target creature you control gets +2/+2 and gains trample until end of turn. This is very helpful because giving our creatures trample and +2/+2, that's looking to be like a great mono green deck. One with Nature, it costs 1 green and it's an enchantment aura. Whenever the enchanted creature deals combat damage to a player, we get to look for a basic land and put it onto our battlefield tapped. This one is really great, and it's a great budget option to start getting our lands from our library to our battlefield. Now going into the Hydras in the deck, we're going to start with Genesis Hydra. For X green green, it's a 0/0 plant Hydra. When you cast this spell, reveal the top X cards of your library. You may put a non-land permanent card with converted mana cost X or less from among them onto the battlefield, then the rest shuffle into your library. Genesis Hydra enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters. What's neat is that our commander already makes this spell cost 4 less, so that's 4 counters we don't even have to pay for, so we could end up paying 2 green and look at the top 4 cards and grab something 4 or less, which is awesome. Next is Hydra Omnivore. This is an 8/8 Hydra, and when it deals combat damage to an opponent, it deals that much damage to each other opponent. Again, we can make this cost 4 less with our commander, so for 2 mana, we get an 8/8 Hydra. That's crazy. Nessian Wild's Ravager. For 6 mana, we get a 6/6 Hydra with Tribute 6, so as it enters the battlefield, an opponent of our choice can put 6 +1/+1 counters on it. When it enters the battlefield, if the tribute wasn't paid, you may have this fight another target creature. So our opponent can make this a 12/12 and not have it fight anything, or leave it as a 6/6, which we can end up paying, again, 2 mana for. So this is a very powerful spell. Moving on to the spells that we're going to target our creatures with to trigger our commander. Mortal's Resolve. For 1 and a green, it's an instant. Target creature gets +1/+1 and gains indestructible until end of turn. This can help protect one of our creatures, or again we can trigger our commander to have it fight something. Invigorate. This is an instant for 2 and a green if we control a forest. Rather than pay the mana cost, you can actually have an opponent gain 3 life, and then target creature gets +4/+4 until end of turn. And it's likely we will have more than one opponent, so we can help someone gain 3 life, and still target our commander or one of our creatures, give it +4/+4, have our commander fight something, and repeat and repeat. Withstand Death, again another way to protect our creatures for only 1 green mana. Primal Bellow, this is a very powerful instant. Target creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each forest you control. There are 36 forests in this deck, and we probably won't have a creature get +36/+36, but it's likely we can get a +10/+10 on a creature, and we're targeting it, again, triggering our commander. Ranger's Guile for 1 green, target creature you control gets +1/+1 and gains hexproof until end of turn. Viridescent Wisp for 1 green, target creature becomes green and gets +1/+0 until end of turn, and we may draw a card. Irresistible Prey for 1 green, target creature must be blocked this turn if able, draw a card. This could help our commander take care of a creature our opponent isn't going to block with, so forcing their creatures to block can be a powerful thing. Sadly, it is a sorcery, but still a great way to cast it, target our commander, and draw a card. Whip Silk is super awesome. For 1 green, it's an enchantment aura. Enchanted creature may block as though it had flying. And for 1 green, we can pay it to return this back to our hand. So if we need to keep targeting our creatures to have our commander start fighting things, it's only going to cost us 2 green to do so. A great way to protect our commander is with Canopy Cover for 1 and 1 green. It's an enchantment aura that says enchanted creature can't be blocked except by creatures with flying or reach, and the enchanted creature can't be the target of spells or abilities your opponents control, so our opponents will have to get rid of this enchantment before they can mess with our commander. Rancor for 1 green is an enchantment aura. It gives the creature +2/+0 and trample, and whenever it would be put into the graveyard, we get to actually return it back to our hand, which is really helpful. Now moving on to my favorite section, and that's card draw. We have Hunter's Insight for 2 and a green. Choose target creature you control. Whenever that creature deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker this turn, draw that many cards. So the ideal situation is we target our commander, and we can draw 8 cards assuming it hits a planeswalker or a player. And it's also instant speed, which can be very helpful if our opponents don't know we have this in our hand. Return of the Wild Speaker. This is a great way to draw cards because it draws through the greatest power among non-human creatures we control, and also non-human creatures you control can get +3/+3 if we choose that mode instead. So the versatility in this card is very helpful. We can pay 5 to draw 8, or give our creatures a +3/+3 buff and swing in and deal a huge amount of damage. Hunter's Prowess for 5 mana. Until end of turn, target creature gets +3/+3 and gains trample, and whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw that many cards. This can make our commander fight something, make it an 11/11, gains trample, and we can draw 11 cards. Regal Force costs 7 mana, it's a 5/5 elemental, but when it enters the battlefield, we draw a card for each green creature we control. And when we have all of our mana dorks, our commander, etc., we could be drawing a ton of cards off of this. Gnarlback Rhino for 2 and 2 green, it's a 4/4 Rhino that has trample, and whenever you cast a spell that targets this card, you get to draw a card. This is probably the best way to draw cards, because whenever we target a creature of ours, our commander is going to fight something, this is going to draw us a card, and it's just a great way to keep the consistency of card draw going. Keeper of Fables. Whenever 1 or more non-human creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, draw a card. So we can end up drawing 3 cards if we hit each opponent. Season of Growth is another great way to draw cards. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield, we'll scry 1, and whenever we cast a spell that targets a creature we control, draw a card, which is exactly what this deck wants to do. Now, how we're going to start to end the game is with cards like Enray's Forerunners. It costs 8, it's a 7/7 with Vigilance, Trample, and Haste, and when it enters the battlefield, other creatures you control get +2/+2 and gain Vigilance and Trample until end of turn. Overwhelming Stampede. Until end of turn, creatures you control gain trample and +X/+X, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. Assuming we have our commander on the battlefield, our creatures will get +8/+8, and that is super good. And the last card I want to talk about is Wild Defiance. This is an enchantment that costs 3, and it says whenever a creature you control becomes the target of an instant or sorcery spell, that creature gets +3/+3 until end of turn. So this works great in the deck because we want to be targeting our creatures anyways, and now they get +3/+3 when we target them. Thank you to the patrons who help support this show, and you can also become a patron to see your name at the end of these videos, and even more rewards. I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.